it's just an amazing spiritual journey being in business. I know, it's full disclosure, this is the weirdest YouTube video I probably ever made. Hey everyone, thanks for joining me today. I'm gonna be brewing some of this. This is a raw pour. I don't know too much about the history of this cake. It's a really nice raw pour. It's from the 90s, and it's just one that I don't even have on the website. It's just one of my personal collection here. Oh, that's really good. I didn't know this was that good. It's really quite old. Definitely early 90s, yeah, at least. I just want to share some stories about the tea business and tea, maybe. My connection with business. I really like business, and when I was younger, I didn't know I really liked business. It was only when I was in Taiwan, living in another culture, speaking another language, someone I didn't even really know very well. One of these students just said to me, "You have a business mind." And I was like, "What's that?" I just was really interested in other cultures, and I still am. But this was when I was much younger. When I went to Taiwan, I didn't really have a specific direction other than that I was really interested in learning language, and so my focus was learning Mandarin Chinese. But other than that, I didn't have a specific direction, but I knew I needed one, because I soon learned that there's however many million people living even in the United States that speak Mandarin and English better than I do. So I was definitely in the quest phase, or in the seeking phase of my life, like, what am I gonna do? So when someone told me you have a business mind, I was like, whoa, what does that even mean? I applied for the Masters of Business. It was a 2-year program. It took me 4 years to graduate. It was very difficult. The whole program was in Mandarin Chinese. It's one of the hardest things I have done in my life. Graduating from that program, definitely in the top 10 difficult things I've done in my life. Not just the academic aspect, but it was really the functioning in the environment. It was, being the only non-native Taiwanese person. It was challenging. There was a lot of, I'll give you one example. I was in our office. The students had offices. I was in an office with some other students, and we were working on a project. And this teacher comes in, and he was the advisor of this group of students, and he says, "So Josh, 你适应得怎么样?" Asking me in Mandarin. He's like, "So how are you adjusting to being a student here?" In my mind, I was like, "Oh, he was really concerned about me." So I just told him, "It's challenging. I'm having a hard time." And then he looks at me and he says, "Josh, you're in Taiwan now, so I just suggest that you adapt." It was weird, because it was like a slap in the face. His answer was, "You just need to handle it." Then while I was in that graduate program, I more or less accidentally got into the tea business. Since 2004, I've been selling tea. Over the course of time, I've really developed a deep appreciation for business. This tea was my passion, and it still is. I really love oolong tea and pu'er tea, sometimes black tea, sometimes white tea. I just really fell in a deep love with tea. And through my tea business, I was able to share this passion with so many people. In that process, I got to know so many really cool people over the years. And I wouldn't know these people. I wouldn't have had the opportunity to meet these people if it hadn't been for this central item, the central focus, which was tea. This simple thing, tea, completely changed my life, because almost all of my relationships and all of the people I know are because of this agricultural product. The world revolves around tea, according to me. It's a great world. If a world revolves around tea, it's a great world to be in. Well, business. Another reason why I really love business. In business, you have to look at yourself clearly and see, these are my weaknesses, these are my strengths. How am I going to overcome this weakness? And basically, through learning about that and then doing it, you become a different person. You're still the same person, but you become a different version of yourself. Even though I've been doing business for 20 years, I still always reading and learning and listening about business. because it's endless. There's so much to learn and so much to grow. Now, I remember when I was back in Taiwan and I was trying to learn to sell tea because I could buy tea. I was learning that. I was hands-on learning in that environment. But I didn't know how to sell tea, and I didn't know how to sell to tea shop owners who were my first clients. And so I remember I heard this name, Zig Ziglar, and it was called Zig Ziglar, How to Close a Deal, or something like that. Zig Ziglar. I'm actually going to put a link to a Zig Ziglar book that I think you should get. I just signed up for the affiliate links program, so you can check out some of the things I'm talking about. If you buy them, it helps pay for my children's education and their soccer program. When I started listening to this book, because I got the Audible version. I'm from Eugene, Oregon. I was living in southern Taiwan. I was listening to this, what sounded to me like a good old boy, and he had a drawl, and I just was basically like, oh, no, I can't do this. I cannot take this. There was a cultural difference. I was in one cultural area. I was from another cultural area, and I was listening to this third cultural area. So I put it down. I don't know what happened, but a little bit of time went by. Maybe it was a week, maybe it was a month. But I basically was like, Josh, you shouldn't be so judgmental. You gotta just see if there's something you can learn from this book. Then I tried again, and I just said, just don't pay attention to the packaging. Try not to get so caught up in the drawl and whatever the cultural thing is that you're averse to. Just give it a chance. And I'm telling you, from that point on, I fell in love with Zig Ziglar. This guy, he's already passed away, but man, and I know so many people, this guy was their hero. He was a force of nature. And if you have a chance, listen to Zig speak, because he has a way of speaking that's both funny, educational, motivating, and just has the coolest way of looking at life. And again, first glance, first try, you might not be able to do it. I would just do like small doses and kind of like try and build up your tolerance. And once you get what he's saying, it's amazing. So I'm a huge fan. One of the reasons we give away these bookmarks when you order tea here is because I love books. So I'm rereading The Psychology of Money. The Psychology of Money. The first time I read this book, or I listened to it, it was an Audible book. I listened to a lot of Audible books, especially about business, because a lot of business type books are somewhat boring to me in the sense of, if I'm gonna read, I don't have a huge attention span, so I really like a really compelling story, like Babel, for example. But actually, now I'm reading this physical book, and it's really good. The stories and the way that... One of the key things that I took away from that book the first time was that with regard to money, there isn't really any such thing as crazy. It's just everyone's relationship with money is sort of based on their own personal experience. So, for example, the author talks about how he's got he and his wife decided to pay off their mortgage. That's sort of an unusual financial strategy that fits in line with more like the Dave Ramsey approach in the Total Money Makeover, which I also highly recommend. When this author talked about paying off their mortgage as a way that they felt really at ease with their life. Third book I'm reading that I'm actually re-listening to is called Profit First. Now, Profit First is a book that completely changed my approach to business. I used to run my business with a line of credit, and I would take my line of credit and I would go to Taiwan, I would buy a bunch of tea, and then I would come back and I would then throughout the year pay off that line of credit. Well, after I read Profit First, it shifted my whole way of doing business, where I run my business not on a line of credit with no debt, and it's just how I prefer to do it. It's like a lot less stress for myself. Profit First is a challenging book if you're going to implement the program, ensuring that you have profit. It's sort of a pay yourself first type of mentality on business. And what was really funny about that book is when I first listened to it, it was when I was really having a strange and difficult relationship with the bookkeeper that was working for my accountant at that time. I was reading the book and it was like, well, your bookkeeper might not like this approach, and You've, got to suss that out and see if you might need a switch or whatever. I got on the phone with my bookkeeper that I'd been having a horrible time communicating with. I described this method to the bookkeeper, and they were so in favor of it. And we talked for an hour, and we were just connecting left and right. And this bookkeeper, who was at the time, I believe, at least in his 70s, I'm not sure. He's still my bookkeeper. I'm still in touch with him. He's still my friend. We basically developed a bond. Not only that, we had weekly meetings where I would meet with this man because he knew so much about business and strategies and how to implement. I realized this guy here is a treasure trove of information like I hadn't never experienced. So I just wanted to be around him in case a question came to my mind. It's kind of like you can't just say to someone like this, tell me everything you know. They know so much and they don't even know what you want to know. So it'd be like we'd have to sort of kick around these problems. For example, like I would just have my spreadsheet or my profit and loss statement or, every type of financial document, and I would just kick around like what's going on with this, what's this, and to the point where I understood, I became very clear. And I wanted to write a book at that time called Bookkeeping, A Spiritual Guide to Life. Because this man not only was my bookkeeper, he was in a way a spiritual mentor. Okay? It sounds weird, but this is my connection with business. Okay? I realized it's like accounting, right? If you don't let the numbers deceive you, if you take the Band-Aid off and you look at the hard facts that the numbers are telling you, is your business profitable? How much in debt are you? How much do you steal from Peter to pay Paul? All these type of business practices that get you in trouble. How much of that are you doing? And how much are you looking at it clearly and trying to get all the smudges off the mirror so you can see yourself very clearly? This is what I call accountability, and that is what accounting is for, right? So check out the affiliate links and keep on drinking the good tea. Cheers.